Good tidings on you beautiful individuals. It is another epi of League Unlock here. And Mark, here with you fine for the individuals. So we are here to break down, I don't even know what to call semifinal weekend at Worlds. Given the reaction, you could call it David versus Goliath. That really wasn't what it was, but again, just a testament to, number one, how impossible pick'ems are at Worlds, and number two, how impossible it is to really make any meaningful predictions heading into the tournament as KT does the unthinkable part two to again deny Chovy and the boys a spot in World Finals.
Although I'm sure there is a healthy percentage of the viewers out there that are saying, no, we knew it all along, not because of the belief in KT, simply because they were doubters, non-believers of GenG and the success, the power that they show seemingly every year, and then the international event and where the struggles, where the troubles begin for this squad. And yes, it rang true again this year in this series against KT, and that doesn't mean to take away any of the excitement. Certainly take away the excitement. We're not using that word for KT. Enthusiastic, right? Enthusiastic. Yeah. For KT, that's our work. Getting them through that series, yes, there is the plus on their side, but it really is, I think, for a lot of people, seeing the downplay, the struggle, the missed performance on a side of GenG compared to everything else we had seen from them all year.
And I know afterwards now you're hearing Chovy talk about anxiety getting the part of him, making uncharacteristic misplays, which there were plenty of from him, who's been pretty much consensus the best player on the planet for the majority of the year. But I don't know what this magic is, man, with these low seed LCK teams over the last couple of years. Fourth or third seeds making it all the way to finals, going back to that DRX run in 2022. Listen, this KT squad was bowing out in round one of the LCK Cup to Nongshim 0-3, getting stomped. They were subbing in Casting and Paddock in the bot and top lane throughout. They're going 1-8 against the top three in the LCK in the rounds 3 to 5, and now here we are. GenG only lost four best of fives all year, and two of them are now at the hands of KT Rolston.
The repeat upset comes through at the worst possible time for GenG, the best possible time for KT Rolster, the way that they are able to make this upset happen. And yes, it's one of those ones where it is all about that evaluation. And I think really for me, one of the X factors, the unquantifiable things that comes through in this series is that adversity that you have gone through this year to bring yourself together, to understand in tough, stressful moments how to get through it, how to find your answers. KT has got it. They showed it through this, all the way through that LCK split and everything else, and just had glimpses of it in that upset win against GenG before, but really throughout this World Championship run, you've been getting that payoff of it. You got the biggest payout of them all against GenG to set yourself up in the World Championship Finals.
And let's break it down here. GenG was by no means at 100%. They were by no means the team that we even just saw against Hanwha Life in the previous round. But this is still more the side of KT just being on an all-time kind of magical run. We're always talking about Cousin BDD, who maybe had their best series of the year amongst a plethora of insane series. But how about Dokdom and Peter dominating the laning phase against Ruler and Duro, who didn't even pick up a single kill combined in games 3 and 4?
Is it 2020? Are we 5 years in the past at this point? Because that's the last time you're seeing Dokdom like this on the international stage. This is an incredible upswing in performance for him individually, and of course giving that credit as well to Peter, and the shout out to him as number one, I think clearly a glue guy, right? A guy who brings this group together. His personality, his attitude, everything about that on and off the Rift is a big part of that, but his gameplay has been there throughout this World Championships as well. Want to make sure that is getting its credit. You can return to talking about Chovy and the anxiety comments. It'd be certainly something that I would be paying extreme attention to if you are a GenG, because it isn't this type of absolute get all 4 nails out, put them all in the coffin type of thing. His career is over. He won't be the greatest of all time or a great player type of thing, whatever. Look at the greatest of all time. Faker, after 2017, shaker in the finals from what happened there, and has to go to a sports psychologist, works through it, finds his way to be the unkillable Demon King once again, the dynasty champion that we have seen with T1, the guy that is always bringing the clutch factor on the international stage. I think that's absolutely a path that I would be trying to go down if I'm GenG. I just don't know if GenG Arnold can manage to pull that phone number out of T1 to make sure he can get Chovy some of that action.
Yeah, they're giving him a fake number of some hired actor to maybe sub in to take Chovy to another level, something they definitely don't want. But and this was by no means just Chovy underperforming. Canyon was definitely gapped throughout this series, and it's just tragic that it feels like it's absolutely going to be the end of this GenG era, whatever the team's going to be looking like, but not making a single World Finals with this roster that has been so dominant domestically, even back-to-back MSI champions. It's just Worlds hits different. There's so many different factors in terms of a completely new environment, having to travel. The tournament is so long. We're used to NA teams crumbling mentally. It happens every year, even EU squads. But I think we just take for granted that so many LCK teams, and especially squads like T1, can kind of effortlessly level up. It's not easy to win Worlds or to have deep runs, even when you are these massive favorites.
It's pretty incredible because it almost is, again, giving off a lot of the same flavors, a lot of the same warning signs that TSM always showed you at the world stage, at these internationals. Yes, GenG has accomplished a little bit more. Of course, winning through the LCK, understanding that's a bit different. And yes, actually getting an international title like MSI and whatnot, sure, that adds into it. But still, that overwhelming difference in performance domestically to internationally and where the results are, yes, that is extremely similar to TSM, and that is absolutely the last type of association you want when you're talking about your level on the international stage.
Yeah, and again, especially, the mid laner being the most hyped up guy on the squad and not seeing that same version internationally is another claim. But again, it's usually semifinals at least. The GenG are bowing out. It's not like a disaster Swiss stage or group stage where they underperform. And LPL title favorites are not immune to the pressures of being that overall favorite tournament. We've seen it time and time again. Just at this event, BLG doesn't even make top 8. You feel the pressure getting to these guys, and KT, Cousin, the guys said it in the teaser video interviews leading up. All the pressure's on GenG for this series, and you could see that.
Yeah, you certainly could understand that one. And when you're talking even about that LPL run, you can look at the squad like Top Esports 0-12 against the LCK this whole year. That's certainly one of those things that you do not expect from a region like the LPL. You list that out for the, LTL, LTA, LCS, LEC, whatever. You certainly could buy into those numbers and go, oh, well, that sucks, but that's how it is, and that's what we've seen. For the LPL, that is just simply unacceptable at this point. From how close you have gotten, how high you have been able to reach before, to have this type of showing, and this one from, again, a squad like Top Esports that unfortunately has been at all these events, to run through with that 0-12 against what is your ultimate competitor, your ultimate rival at the very top in the LCK, is a massive disappointment.
There is no better example of entropy, yin and yang of energy in the universe than T1 being compared to GenG, especially, how this semifinal run has played out, and that is the domestic dominance. GenG come in as massive favorites and flounder out at Worlds. Of course, T1 is the complete opposite. Just when you think you're lowest of them for the year, they flip a switch, Worlds runs around, and we're at the back-to-back finals appearances for T1, and total opposite series against TES. You mentioned the 0-12. There was no sign of life from Top Esports basically from the first 10 minutes of this series.
If I'm 369, I might punch them if they ask me to do another promo talking about taking down
next
Faker
time he's getting
T1.
his revenge, I promise you.
fifth time's the charm, right? It's gotta be, because that is 4 straight times losing to T1, losing to Faker and this squad and what they're able to do. This one, not even close on so many aspects. I think there's a lot of them individually in these matchups, and as far as what the team, synergy and how they were putting it through, absolutely clearly mismatched, and one of those ones where it leads to 2 of these thoughts, one of them being number 1. Well, anyone's legend was the true number 1 seed of the LPL all year round, all year, all the way through. Yes, they had the stumbles and they didn't get it and qualify, sure. But power and what they did, yes, it is anyone's legend at the end of the year that I'm saying is that number 1 squad from the region. And it is unfortunate for Top Esports because they earned this spot throughout summer, and it was one of these ones where, yes, things, kind of were some struggles throughout the year and a disappointment at the first stand. But here was your opportunity to show that you were going to be better. It was going to be different. And an 0-3 series against T1, the struggles to even get to this point of the event absolutely are going to be a mega disappointment for the fans.
And not just a 3-0. 85 minutes. The whole series was under an hour and a half. You had 34 kills in 28 minutes in Game 3, and it was just various team fights styling on by T1. We've seen Guma have that aggressive playstyle that we've come to know and love finally come alive in the knockout rounds. Kyria add another champ to the permaban list in the Nico because he did it again in back-to-back series with some insane flanks, and that's 3 out of 4 LPL teams eliminated by T1 when you include IG in the play-in stage, and BLG kind of eliminated themselves, so T1 couldn't do that. And 2 out of 4 LPL teams eliminated last year by T1, and 3 out of 4 the year before. So yes, they are very much the killers of the LPL, is about putting it as lightly as you possibly can.
You're getting quite a very good picture of why people say it isn't a true world championship if T1 isn't there. Because this is what T1 does. 2 regions, 2 squads, top-level teams at an international event like this. And yes, book it now. The Telecom Wars in the World Championship Finals. I'm sure there were a lot of times you might have thought you would have gotten a Telecom War in the World Championship Finals, and certainly this would probably be one of the most unlikely years that you would think you would get one with everything that has gone through. But here we are, KTT1 for all the marbles.
And listen, the first half of this year, every time we had a Telecom War, everyone's saying, this isn't even a rivalry anymore. We shouldn't even talk about the Telecom War. This hasn't been relevant in years. Then towards the end of the summer split, KT gets a upset 2-0 against T1, and you're, oh, okay, maybe there is something here. KT upsets GenG, goes to Worlds, blah, 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 and T1 slumps their way into Worlds, as we're accustomed to seeing. But yeah, now here we are in these grand finals, and, we'll do a full breakdown preview of this matchup before we get closer to, of course, but it feels like, based on performance of the tournament, if you ignored name tags, team names, KT should be the favorites heading into this, but it's T1 in the World Finals, so there's no way they're going to be viewed as favorites.
The problem is that, yes, if you're just purely going off of this event and what you have seen from KT, you are taking KT at that point. The problem comes with, well, it isn't just about this event. You are carrying that history of the organization and of these players. And with that bolstering the side of T1, there is no way that they are not the favorites heading into this series, despite what we have seen on Rift as the product from both of these squads, right? Where you would say, well, on Rift, it's on the KT side. The history side, it's going to be T1. I am very much so looking back and trying to reflect on that upset win for KT in that summer split, because I think that is absolutely the game plan that you have to follow if you are KT to try and get through this series. Yes, it is going to be, that extra win is required. It is not just best of 3. This is that best of 5. You need to get to that third one, and that one, again, in Fearless and everything else, it is an extra big task to throw on that extra win compared to just the 2. But if you're KT, you got to look into that blueprint of how you were doing it. You got to realize that, a lot of the key picks and power plays that we were making still are on the table in the meta right now, and with what is here and what can be played. So if you're KT, I'm looking back through a couple of our scrapbook notebooks to find our notes for that series against T1.
And, much like the GenG KT matchup, you got to look at both sides of the coin. GenG underperformed, KT leveled up. Top Esports definitely didn't have it on the day, but again, how much of this is the T1 level up? We saw them have that competitive series against Anyone's Legend, but they were one or two team fight losses away from losing that series. They were down in Game 5, and then it was just the mojo and aura of T1 and Faker kind of coming through in the clutch. And this team, again, is the opposite. The yin to the yang of GenG, where when the pressure is at its highest, these guys all step up. And it's not just a Faker theme. We've seen it with Guma. We've seen Owner have a fantastic series. When their backs are against the wall, when they're down 2-1 in a series, that's when the real T1 comes out.
Right, and I think that's where the importance for me is going to be on KT getting an early edge in the series, right? Because if you are down by any means, it just gets even more hard, even harder, even more impossible to find an avenue back through the series and claw yourself through against what this T1 team will be feeling, the confidence, the mojo, the swagger that will continue through them as they feel familiar feelings as they have capturing other championships in the past. So that certainly is going to be one of the areas that you got to find an opportunity to destabilize a squad like T1, which is feeling more and more secure about themselves and their performance, moving on through Anyone's Legend, and then the way that they did through Top Esports.
And one of the things people are almost always harping on T1 about is the draft, the pick ban, how they go through. But this series, they dominated pick ban. They seemed like they got everything they wanted. Their team comps were cohesive and made sense. How they had this insane dive Camille Jarvan Galio combo that's not as common these days. Of course, they can pilot it to near perfection, but they looked confident in getting the comps that they wanted throughout this set against TES.
Yeah, I think that is also one of the things that you are worried about with this, because I think out of T1 to start this event didn't necessarily have that same type of confidence in where they were in defining their own meta. Because again, we know T1 is at one of their best when they are the leading charge of the meta, of saying, no, you thought this thing wasn't, this is possible in here, and this is how you make it work, and this is the advantage of having this in the composition, whatever, these type of things. T1 is in that type of form. Again, another thing to be really scared about if you are KT. But you go back to that series that KT won. I think one of the ways that they handled T1 was through draft, was one of the important things in securing the champions that they needed to in order for their players to thrive. Specifically, a guy like BDD in the mid lane and some of the picks that we're seeing now. Talia, we're certainly seeing a lot of her being used in the mid lane. And I think that one, and as well on the side of what was being denied from the side of T1, was a big point as well. Going to become even harder. Best of 5, fearless draft involved with this one. Again, it is still one of those things that ramps it on up and increases the difficulty level for KT.
As we get to wrapping up the World Championship, we always get to already look ahead to some 2026 action. We're talking the new format in LEC Versus. We got the final team qualifying for that event as Carmine Corp Blue win the EMEA Summer Master Finals 3-0, despite a couple of throws from Heretics to get them there. But now, with these 2 ERL slots getting invited for this new format, we're going to have not one, but 2 Carmine Corp squads coming in. They knew this was going to be an issue with an ERL team getting promoted. The bigger issue isn't one team or one organization having 2 teams. It's that guys like Yukino and Mainter and probably the whole roster for KC Blue will be on tier 1 teams. So it seems like it might just be 5 random players that are going to be put together for this event.
Oh, this is one of those ones where I don't know how you avoid a situation like this, because again, it is one of the logical step forwards from achieving something like this for that roster is to go, yes, you're going to get offers, going to get attention from higher up teams, different region, different tiers. And sure, for your own career, of course you're moving on type of thing. From the perspective of looking at what we're going to have the next time around, seeing a roster that will be fielded of guys that did not achieve what was necessary to earn that spot and be there is absolutely going to be a bit of a clown mess for the LEC. But you laid it out. It's something that you had to know was going to be one of the possibilities when you laid out this as the format that was going to lead into it, because I don't think a lot of people were doubting a squad like Carmine Corp Blue to be in this type of territory, to be in this type of position. And then again, looking at the players and saying, yes, you're going to take other opportunities. You are going to keep moving forward in your career and not just say, all right, well, we locked in this for this group and this spot and this tier. Let me just put everything else on hold so I can do this and then, we'll move on. It's not how things work in the real world.
Yeah, and it's, you're just banking on one split for the CRL team, right? Like they're not going to be there for spring or summer in the LEC. It's a one-off LEC Versus special title that they will qualify for first stand. So you could have Carmine Corp Blue beating their main team to qualify for first stand. Technically, could be a thing, but the LEC commissioner very quickly, has kind of given them grace by saying things are subject to change, visa issues, other things. So they're kind of giving themselves a little out to have to change what teams involved or change the format in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, gonna need to be some quick thinking. Let's just put it that way from the LEC as far as how they will organize this one, because again, you don't even have to be an old head like me to go back to the times in the LCK and the LPL where you would have these sister teams, these other squads, and then the ruling changed, the decision of no more, not allowed. If you got a spot like that, you earn it through promotion, relegation, sell it. I don't care whatever you're doing with it. It's not going to be your spot anymore because you've already got one spot with your already one squad. So yes, I think that's certainly going to be something that's going to have to be closely monitored and managed by the LEC.
And even despite having all these kind of question marks, feeling a little bit janky, I do think the base of this format of inviting some tier 2 teams up is a great idea. And there's going to be lots of positives that the LEC take from it, and maybe even lots of positives and ideas that other regions take going forward as we kind of continue to see leagues experimenting with this new 3-split format. So I appreciate the LEC trying to cook something up, and we're still going to sit there and harp on them for any of the issues that there are there. But that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you, absolute beauties. Thanks so much for hanging out. We'll catch you on that flippity flip.